He became a little sober. He said, maybe this isn't such a good career. We become covered over by illusion. It was his selfishness. And then by the grace of Narada, he understood. And after that, he was by the grace of his guru, he was able to see the relationship he had with all living beings. And now, instead of hating these weaker beings, he loved them and wanted to serve them. Amanina manadena. He was offering honor and respect to every living being. And when Narada Muni came back, Mrigali the hunter, Narada Muni saw him offering obeisances to ants. Not wanting to in any way inconvenience them, what to speak of hurt them, even inconvenience them. He didn't even want to walk in front of them. He wanted to let them pass out of respect. What a change of heart. Did Mrigali starve? No. Krishna provided. We have faith. If we do things the right way, Krishna will provide. We may not get the same type of temporary, karmically infected prestige as if we do it our way. But that prestige is nothing but a massive burden. Material burden that's going to just push us down in this life and the next. What's important is that we do the right thing in the right way for the right person. But because bhakti is so precious, Krishna will make things temporarily appear that it's happening just like the atheists say it will. Yes? It's like the atheists would accuse the devotees in Navadvip that what is the use of your worshiping God and giving up so many things that we enjoy? Because after all, we're atheists, we die. You're devotees, you die. What's the difference? We both die. We both get sick. What is God doing for you? We see beyond. We see within. Of course, for a realized devotee, all of these accusations, it's like a blind man saying there's no such thing as the sun in the month of May at 12 o'clock noon. And standing at Chowpatty beach. You can't take it seriously. But for someone who doesn't see, someone who's not realized, on the basis of faith in great souls and scriptures and God, we understand that there's something beyond all this. But sometimes devotees, they dedicate their lives and they get sick. Or they have family problems. Where it appears that they're failing in their endeavors, just like everyone else. So people say, so what is all the use of this chanting and all this stuff? Same things are happening to you as the rest of us. That's part of Krishna's plans, that things appear to be the same when reversals come. To test, do we really want it? If we really want it, we're willing to persevere, even though things are not going exactly in the magical way that we would like them to. They are going in a magical way, but in a way that will actually help us to really surrender and love God. When you're sick, the doctor doesn't always give you a remedy that you enjoy. Yes? If you have a heart problem and you have to have a triple bypass surgery, it doesn't feel that good. But you do it. At least some people do it. So sometimes treatment is not what we want, but it works. So in this world, we have this disease of being selfish, of being egoistic, of seeing in terms of I and mine instead of Krishna, and it's a very deeply chronic heart disease. And when we take to Krishna consciousness, Krishna wants to see that we really want to get better. So there's going to be tests. But sometimes it really appears that it's just not working. Why is Krishna abandoning me? Is he watching? And that's what happened here. After this, we may do years and years and years of sadhana, and then it seems like everything's just going wrong. But it's not going wrong. It's going according to a master plan. So here the demigods, they worked really hard. It was like their sadhana. They were following Krishna's direction. They were risking their lives. They were struggling and straining. And at the very, very, very end, when the nectar finally comes, the demons take it all. Now, an atheistic person would say to the demigods, you see, we told you. What did you do all that for? They were totally bereft. But then at the very end, when there was no hope, there was no way, there was nothing they could do. What's really amazing is the demons were fighting against themselves for the nectar. They were really disunited. But why didn't the demigods attack at that point in a united way to take it away? The reason? Because they didn't have a chance. They were so much weaker that even though the demons were disunited and fighting amongst each other, the demigods knew that they didn't have a chance to get it. Because as soon as they came, the demons would unite and destroy them. So they were just all sitting in a corner just watching, thinking, finished, failed, nothing. Only hope, nothing we could do. They were really crying out for Krishna. Really crying out for Krishna. Not just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. They were really crying out for Krishna. Everything was based on Krishna saving them because there's nothing they could do. And then, in the most mysterious and wonderful way, Mohini Murti appears and gives all the nectar to the demigods. So in the end, all the nectar comes to those who love God, who follow the will of God. But we can know before we even start the path that when we follow the will of God, we still go through many of the same challenges and disappointments of everyone else in the world on the external level. Sometimes people's faith is very much based on how temporary circumstances go the way we want them to go. But Krishna warns us, sometimes I'll take everything away just so that you really understand how you're depending on me. If we see God's grace and God's love within the situation, we can welcome it and be happy. If not, we become bewildered. And that is why we need to regularly hear in the association of devotees to maintain the substance of that faith, real faith. Everyone has faith, either in the temporary illusory energy or in God. It's not a matter of faith or no faith, it's a matter of where you put your faith. An immature devotee thinks, when I come to Krishna consciousness, materially everything's going to happen my way. And for some time, Krishna may actually make it appear that way. But then after some time, it's not necessarily going to happen. Our shelter, our fulfillment is something on a much deeper platform. That's where it always has been. If everything went our way, our conception, and everything does get taken away. That's just the life we have chosen in this material world, whoever we are. So before that moment comes, Krishna wants us to really be in connection to the divine within ourselves, to really be in connection to his infinite, eternal love and grace. And therefore, all of the successes and failures of this world are really meant to prepare us to take shelter of the immortal. Because from the perspective of the eternal soul, whether things go the way we want them or not in this world is a very, very temporary situation. Do they help bring us closer to God? Or do they just frustrate us on the mundane platform? That's the choice that all of us have. But Krishna has promised. In Ramayana, in Mahabharata, in so many of the other scriptures we find, there's always tests and apparent reversals for devotees. But in the end, the nectar of immortality, the nectar of Krishna, is manifested through the nectar of the holy name when we take shelter. This is a very important story, and this particular verse in purport is explaining the difference between truth and illusion, material and spiritual, is simply the difference between being selfish and having a spirit of selfless service to God and to others. God and to others means when you water the root of the tree, automatically you are doing the greatest benefit to all others. Philanthropy, altruism on the mundane platform is temporary relief for a few people. But when we actually act for the welfare of others on the basis of our love for God, we nourish the souls of others. We're actually doing the greatest benefit for every living being, whether they recognize or not. That is their free will. Now, apparently for most of us, we don't see the root, we see the rest of the tree. Is it blind faith to pour water on the root of the tree? A mundane person will criticize you. What are you doing putting the water in the ground for? The tree needs the water, not the ground. What is this nonsense? Put it on the leaf, put it on the twig, put it on the branch. Say, no, because if I put it on the root of the tree, every part will get. That's based on faith and what you can't see, because you don't see the root. But based on the experience of others, based on good logic and philosophy, we understand this. And when we actually do it, we see it works. So pouring water on the root of the tree is doing something that is very unseen. You don't even see the root, yes? But yet you're putting your water. Why not put the water on what you see? There's faith. Well, serving God, the faith is even more tangible. We see through history, we see through scripture, we see through our own experiences how it works. Krishna appears. The root of the tree is appearing in such beautiful forms, Radha Gopinath. Yes, just to unite our efforts. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is for the welfare of all humanity. By developing love of God through serving their lordships, who unify all of us, we could actually nourish the hearts and the souls of all beings. But loving devotional service is without selfish desire, without egoistic expectations. It is for the pleasure of the Lord, according to the will of the Lord. Through such an approach, Krishna reveals our relationship with him and our relationship with all other living beings. So that, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, is the difference between material and spiritual. One person is cooking in a house simply for the family, and another person is cooking for Krishna and offers the same thing to their family. It seems like the same thing. It may be the same spices, the same rice from the same rice merchant. Yes? May be served on the same plates, maybe leaves from the same banana tree. But when you offer it to Krishna and then give it to your family, it's not only karma free, but it's spiritually rejuvenating. So yeah, same activities. The difference between whether they're material or spiritual is our conscious awareness of connection, relationship with God, which which is only actuated, which only actually happens through the spirit of service. Because that is our eternal relationship with Krishna. Thank you very much. Yes, one question that I have to go.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful class. Maharaj, you were mentioning about how the difference between the activities of demigods and demons is essentially one is doing in ignorance and the other one is doing in knowledge. So in course of our preaching, locally and internationally also, we meet many people. We are also essentially preaching about the Hare Krishna mantra and the Vedic culture, overall trying to spread the awareness and the importance of Vedic culture. And then there are many other organizations who are also wanting that the Vedic culture should come, but they don't have the typical concept, the pure concept of Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead and the holy name as the prominence in their activities, but they are more into doing some activities which we cannot do. They are very good, especially in cow protection or protecting the Vedic culture, many aspects of it. So many of them, they offer us also to collaborate with them, which is seen in our community with extreme opinions. Whether this is getting too political or this is not right from Vaishnavism point of view, to collaborate with Hindu organizations or rather pro-Hindu organizations who appear to be doing things very fanatically, but from a Vaishnava perspective, sometimes we need so many things, somebody doing certain things in aggression. So how do we see our collaboration with them on certain fronts?
Rupa Goswami's principle, we accept what is favorable for devotional service and we do not accept what is unfavorable for devotional service. It is required that we analyze the particular situation. There's no general statement that can really answer your question, except to accept what is favorable and reject what is unfavorable. And whatever particular situation, whatever particular alliance that would possibly may be proposed, we should analyze it. If it's going to embroil us in political activities, then it's unfavorable. If there are common goals, like cow protection, that we really believe in, and we find that it's actually favorable toward helping people in general to come to a higher platform of Krishna consciousness, then we accept it. In this world, there's always extreme opinions. Because it's the nature of the conditioned human mentality is, it's very easy to be extreme, black or white. That's, Krishna discusses this path is not for one who eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or sleeps too little. We have to analyze a thing on the basis of its merit from a perspective of what's favorable to Krishna consciousness. And we shouldn't be disturbed by different extreme opinions. Hare Krishna. So in far as what you're saying, I'm sure some of these different alliances would be very favorable and some would be very unfavorable. So we have to have the proper motives, the proper intelligence, We have to really understand Prabhupada's teachings very carefully and consult people, our senior devotees, who are very experienced and very wise to help us make these calculations. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you mentioned that in devotional service there will be tests and reversals and these things will come. And we also hear that devotee means one who is happy, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. We also hear that there is basic platform of the soul is pleasure seeking. So unless there is a pleasure, one cannot perform any activity. So sometimes it seems like devotion service can be a miserable life because the tests are coming and your expectations are not fulfilled. So how can a sadhaka can be happy in performing devotional service in such circumstances?
The real pleasure is in taking shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness. The real pleasure is not in the thing that's happening externally. If things go your way very nicely, it could be miserable if it distracts you from the process of bhakti. Yes? It's just temporary, coming and going. But in every situation, we analyze real pleasure in how we are actually connecting to Krishna, how we're giving pleasure to Krishna. As we make spiritual advancement, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he would see a beautiful feast cooked for the deities, he was in the greatest ecstasy. All he wanted was a little boiled rice. But seeing hundreds of magnificent sabjis and sweets offered to the deities was his happiness. So we have to learn what is real happiness. Are you this mind, are you this body, or are you the soul? We have to focus on what gives happiness to the soul. So when there are reversals, when we take shelter of Krishna, we're giving happiness to our soul. It's not that we look for miseries. We're looking for happiness. We're trying to arrange our Krishna conscious life in such a way that there's some quality and some stability. Yes? But whatever we plan and whatever we arrange, miseries are going to come. But they are wonderful opportunities to learn to find pleasure, not in the misery. It's not that the devotees find pleasure in the miseries. They find pleasure in taking shelter of Krishna. Whether it's in happiness or distress, whether it's in pleasure and pain, honor or dishonor, success or failure, victory or defeat. Whatever may come in our way, our happiness is not in the thing. It's not in the result. It's in turning to Krishna, remembering Krishna, connecting to Krishna, especially through chanting His holy name. If you look for Krishna in that, you will find Krishna in that. If you look for pleasure in Krishna, you will find pleasure in Krishna. And that pleasure is eternal and unlimited. If you look for pleasure in the temporary results of situations in this world, that's where you're going to find your pleasure. So sometimes miserable situations help us to really look for our pleasure in Krishna. But we should be doing that even in pleasurable situations. In all situations. Does that answer your question? So when Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy, Prabhupada wanted the best possible material situations that were favorable to Krishna consciousness for the devotees. When Prabhupada saw devotees getting sick or not getting proper prasad or not getting proper facilities, for basic sleeping and everything, he was very much concerned. He wanted the devotees to have a basically healthy and basic comforts so that they weren't overly distressed and troubled by their bodies. In Mayapur, he would be very careful that devotees had mosquito nets. Vrindavan, he made a beautiful ashram and guest house so devotees could, even from the west, could feel some basic comforts in Vrindavan, which at the time it was really not available anywhere else. But no matter what arrangements you make for these simple, basic, comforts, miseries come. And some devotees were just had no comforts hardly at all, and they were the happiest. Yes, 6 Goswamis lived under trees. They were the happiest people because they were always turning to Krishna. So we should try to provide the Vaishnavas with comfortable, stable lives as far as possible. But while we're doing that, we should always be cultivating that internal consciousness, which means that our real happiness, our real pleasure is not in these arrangements. Our real pleasure is in connecting to the reservoir of all pleasure by chanting the holy name. Srila Prabhupada ki